Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a pretty fascinating 1982 sermon by Sun Myung Moon to really get a handle on the core theological arguments of the Unification Church from that specific time.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at what made the movement seem so different to everyone on the outside. Then, we're going to dive into this incredible metaphor they used, a cosmic soccer game, of all things. After that, we'll explore the main problem they felt they needed to solve, the special role of their leaders, and finally, what their big mission was all about.
All right, first things first. We have to understand why the Unification Church, at least according to its founder, was seen as so unusual during this era.
And what's wild is that the sermon just leans right into it. It kicks off by straight up acknowledging that, to the average person, they looked like, and I'm quoting here, a bunch of crazy people. He knew they were seen as outsiders.
And this feeling wasn't coming from just one place. The sermon lays out how this strange label was being slapped on them from every possible angle. Other religions thought they were odd. Secular society didn't get it. Even their own parents and friends were confused by their new lifestyles and big talk about saving the world.
So you can see what's happening here. The sermon defines the church by what it's not. It sets up this contrast. While other religions, as he describes them, focus on individual spirituality and often celibacy, his movement was all about life on earth, about family and marriage, and about taking action on a massive, even global scale.
Okay, so if you feel like the whole world thinks you're strange, how do you make sense of that? Well, this is where the theology gets really creative. To explain all the opposition they faced, Moon came up with this powerful and, you gotta admit, pretty unique metaphor, a cosmic soccer game.
In this cosmic match, God and Satan have completely different playbooks. Satan is all offense, all aggression. But God's strategy, according to the sermon, is to play defense. God lets Satan attack first, because every time Satan breaks the rules with an unjust attack, God's side actually gets a little stronger, a little more elevated.
So you might be wondering, where do the followers fit into all this? Well, they're the soccer ball. They're the ones getting kicked around by both sides in this huge spiritual battle.
But here's the twist. This isn't just any old soccer ball. It's kind of magical. The sermon says that even if Satan kicks the ball with all his might towards his own goal, the ball will miraculously turn around and score for God's team instead.
And this is where the metaphor becomes a really powerful coping mechanism. It totally reframes persecution. Getting kicked doesn't weaken the movement. It actually makes it bigger, heavier, and more united, until eventually that ball becomes strong enough to fight back.
Okay, so if life is a cosmic struggle, what's the fundamental problem down here on Earth that needs fixing? The sermon boils it all down to one word: barriers.
The sermon says the root of every conflict, every bit of division we see in the world, goes all the way back to the fall of man. That original split between Adam and Eve created a chain reaction of barriers that separates us even now.
And this division is kept alive by what the sermon calls false love, which is self-centered and attributed to Satan. So what's the only thing powerful enough to smash through all those barriers? The complete opposite, true love, which is all about living for others.
So the path to healing the world is pretty clear then, right? You have to do the exact opposite of what Satan would do. If his nature is selfish, the answer is to be humble, to practice self-sacrifice, and to bring people together through that other-centered true love.
Now, this path of restoration isn't something followers were expected to figure out on their own. The sermon introduces central figures who are meant to lead the way, the true parents.
You can think of the true parents as a kind of spiritual reboot for humanity. They're presented as a new Adam and Eve, whose mission is to finally succeed where the originals failed and kickstart a whole new unified human family.
And their job, as described here, is huge. It's like they've already hacked a path through the dense jungle of the fallen world. They've created a superhighway so that followers can just travel down that road and inherit the victory they've already won.
So you've got the theology, you've got the leaders, but what does that mean for the average follower? What are they supposed to do? This brings us to the practical, on-the-ground mission to make all these ideas a reality. This is probably the most visible part of the whole movement, the blessing, those huge mass marriage ceremonies. In the context of the sermon, they're framed as the ultimate act of barrier breaking. By pairing couples from different races and nations, they believed they were literally healing historical divisions in a single moment.
But it wasn't all about these giant events. The mission also got incredibly local, and it revolved around a key number, 360.
Each member was given the task of setting up a home church, which meant taking spiritual responsibility for a territory of 360 homes in their neighborhood.
And you've got to understand, this was way more than just proselytizing. It was seen as a training ground. The home church was the school where members could learn how to be good parents to their new, restored community or tribe. So when you pull all these threads together, the internal logic of this sermon becomes pretty clear. Everything from being seen as crazy to the giant weddings is explained as a necessary piece of a cosmic plan to restore the entire world through sacrificial love. And all of this leaves us with the final question to chew on. This entire worldview is built on a very specific definition of true love. What the ultimate impact and legacy of that idea turned out to be, well, that's the big question, isn't it?